What is up, my friends? Welcome to the Dallas Daily Show podcast, coming at you from the Neighborhood Loan Studio here in St. Louis, Missouri. Today's conversation is biting my lip again and again and again. All right, let's get into it. So, a couple of weeks ago, I bit my lip, just slightly, ever so slightly, bit my lip. You'd think I have a lot of biting experience. I put the fork in my mouth. You wouldn't think I would bite my lip at 45 years old, but it happened, all right? So here's what's crazy, though. I bit my lip, and then over the next 48 hours, I continued to bite it 3 more times. Why did I do that? Well, it's very simple. It was a little swollen. It was a little irritated. It was very tender. And it was though it was just hyper aware. But the fact that that little bit of swelling, I bit it 3 more times. And I finally was like, I'm done even chewing and talking until the swelling of this goes down. I put the little ice pack on it, did all the things that I could. But it was swollen and it was tender. And I kept re-wounding it over and over and over again. Laughable, yes. But here's what it taught me. There are areas of my life that I've experienced a wound. There are areas of my life where somebody wounded me maybe, or I've done something stupid and wounded myself, or something about life just occurred and it just hurt. But then all of a sudden it was like life just kept offering opportunities for me to get hurt again there and hurt again there and hurt again there. And I started thinking about you as well. How many old wounds are we carrying around that it doesn't take much to actually trigger that wound, which brings up an old memory, which maybe brings up a bad belief, or maybe even it brings up a sedation behavior. See, in our modern parlance, in our society today, we like to people talk about being triggered, right? You've probably heard that term, oh, that triggered me, this triggered me. So people talk about being triggered all the time. And what it is a trigger is actually kicking in your system, in your brain, to bring up kind of old patterns, old beliefs, right? And so maybe somewhere back in your past, someone said a thing to you that wounded you. And now when other people say something very similar, it brings up the wound of the old memory. You bite your lip again, if I can say it like that. And maybe that old memory then triggers an old belief. Well, they always told me I'd never be good enough. And now, yep, sure enough, I guess I'm never going to be good enough. And then you begin to behave like someone who is never good enough. And then you get results that actually keep that cycle going, because then all of a sudden your performance goes down, or you begin to fall into old behavioral patterns of disintegration, right? Compartmentalization. You begin to fall into old things. So a trigger that thing that occurs can actually trigger a belief that triggers a behavior that gets you going on this cycle over and over and over again. The trigger, belief, behavior cycle. And you'll hear me talk about this a lot. And I'm not going to go too deep into it today, but I just want to challenge you. It might be time to let some old wounds heal. It might be time, and even as I'm bringing this up, you might be hearing it, and it's bringing up an old memory. Maybe it's something a parent said to you, or a spouse, or a sibling, or a teacher, or maybe a pastor, or maybe a friend. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like everybody could push on that. Everybody could press on that wound a little bit more. And you've been wounded over and over and over again. And now the very thought of it sends you into a downward spiral, because that cycle, right, that trigger belief behavior cycle, what ends up happening is it turns on you and it takes you into a downward spiral. And it's taking you toward a future you don't want to go toward. It's taking you for a future where you're still wounded. It's taking you toward a future where you're still triggered into old belief and behavior patterns. And maybe those are bleeding over into your health, or maybe they're bleeding over into your relationships. Maybe they're bleeding over into your finances. I don't know where it is for you, but as I'm talking this out, I really get this sense that you're listening to this and something's coming to mind. Somewhere where you, quote, bit your lip. And it keeps getting bit over and over and over again. Is it possible for you to release it? Is it possible for you to forgive it? Is it possible for you to, that trigger is going to be there. So is it possible for you to maybe disarm it, to unwire it, right? It's going to cause a bomb every time. But what if you could let it go? What if you could be healed? What if you could forgive? What might be possible for you if you found freedom from that old cycle, if you quit biting your lip and you actually started to heal? I think there's something amazing available for you. And I want to challenge you today. Consider an old wound and take the time verbally to say, I forgive that person. I release that person. I actually let go and send them love. Say, love on them in whatever that way means for you. If it's pray for them, whatever it is for you, send them love and let it go. Quit biting your lip and move on to a healthier future you that is building a whole new cycle that's not a downward spiral, but instead it's an upward trajectory toward who you ultimately want to become. That's it, my friends. That's all I got for you today. Think about it. Consider it. If you're gaining value from these, I encourage you, please go to the podcast page, dallasdailyshow.com, grab some of the resources, but more importantly, like, subscribe, review us, give us a 5-star rating, and share this forward. Especially maybe you've had a conversation and someone else keeps telling you how they've, quote, bit their lip. So-and-so. And you always hear them embittered about the same thing. Maybe share today's episode with them and say, I think this might be good for you and for me, and maybe we could do some forgiving and some letting go. I think it could be beautiful. All right, my friends, go out there, as I always like to say, forgive, forget, right? But more importantly, have a championship day.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more tools, go to dallasdailyshow.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.